it's Ken and today we're going to create this adorable little ladybug pouch. I like to call it a bag buddy because it's designed to go right onto your bag and make it super easy to grab those essentials that tend to disappear in the depths of your tote bag. So think AirPods, cash, lip balm, etc. I personally think it is the perfect blend of cute and practical. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I share crochet tutorials just like this one that you'll be watching. So if you enjoy crafting along, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing. Your support helps me dedicate more time and resources to bringing you even more fun and free projects. To start, let's gather our supplies. You'll need your yarn of choice in black and your preferred shell color. Since I've already made the classic red ladybug, I'm going to go with a purple today, but any color will work for the shell. I'm using a weight 4 cotton yarn. You can use any weight or size of yarn, but I personally wouldn't recommend anything larger than a weight 6, a tapestry needle for weaving in ends, stitch markers, a sewing needle and thread that matches the color of your shell yarn. I'm using one of those sewing kits that you get from the hotel, a pair of scissors, 2 buttons, one small and one medium size. Throughout this tutorial, we'll be using the following techniques. If any of these are new to you, don't worry, I've included a playlist in the description below with some helpful tutorials you can refer to. Here's my original smaller ladybug design. I'll be showing you how to make a slightly larger version in this video, but I wanted to provide the measurements for this smaller one in case you prefer it. The shell is 3 inches wide and 4 inches long, and the head is 1 inch long as well. So in total, the ladybug is 5 inches long. Keep these measurements in mind if you want to adjust the ladybug size during the tutorial. Okay, let's get started. Grab your yarn and create a slip knot. Place that slip knot on your hook. To begin, we'll create a foundation chain. The length will determine the size of your ladybug's body. For a smaller ladybug, like the red one I previously showed you, you can chain 3 inches. However, I'll be creating a chain equal to 4 inches. The exact number of chains will vary depending on your yarn's thickness. For my yarn, 4 inches equals 16 chains. The foundation chain determines not only the width of your ladybug, but also, of course, the width of the pocket. So double check that the items you plan on carrying in this pocket will fit. So for example, if you're going to use this for your AirPods, place them directly on top of the chain to see if it's wide enough. Once your chain is the desired length, go ahead and place a stitch marker in the first chain from your hook. This is going to be the beginning of your row. Then you'll chain 2 for your turning chain, and in the chain where you place that stitch marker, that's going to be your third chain from your hook, you'll work your first half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops to complete your first half double crochet. Now you'll work 1 half double crochet in each stitch until you reach the end of the row. So pause the video, complete this row, and then we'll continue to the next step. Here's my last half double crochet of the row. To begin the next row, you will chain 2 and turn your work. Work your first half double crochet into the first stitch, and then continue with 1 half double crochet in each stitch across the row, just like we did in the previous row. Repeat these rows of doing half double crochet until your piece is approximately 2 inches tall. So pause the video and continue working your rows until you reach that height, and then join me for the next step. So I've completed all of my rows. Keep in mind that the exact number of rows might vary depending on your yarn's thickness, but for my yarn, 2 inches was about 5 rows. With the top section of the shell complete, we'll now begin shaping the shell's curve. We'll do this by alternating between 2 types of rows, a decrease row where we'll decrease at both the beginning and end of the row, and then a regular row of half double crochets in each stitch. So I'll show you how we'll do that. Okay, let's start our first decrease row. So chain 2 and turn your work. We'll create a decrease over the first 2 stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Now with those 3 loops still on your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 4 loops. And that completes your first decrease. Now add 1 half double crochet in each stitch until you have 2 stitches left in your row. So complete those half double crochets and then meet me back when you have 2 stitches left. In our last 2 stitches, we'll do a decrease just like we did at the beginning. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook. With those 3 loops still on your hook, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You should have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. And that completes your first decrease row. For the next row, chain 2, turn your work, and then you'll add 1 half double crochet in each stitch until you reach the end of the row. Keep alternating between these decrease rows and regular half double crochet rows until the width of your piece measures to be about 2 inches. So pause the video here, complete those rows until you reach that width, and then meet me back for the next step. Okay, so our rows are all complete and the width of the last row is about 2 inches. Mine is 2.5 inches, and the total height of this shell is 4 inches. Now we'll work on the border. To do so, chain 1 and rotate your work. We're going to add 1 single crochet in each space all along the edge. However, unlike our previous rows, sometimes there aren't distinct stitches to work into, so just use your best judgment to space the single crochets consistently to avoid bunching. When you reach a corner, work 2 single crochets into the same spot to help turn your work smoothly. Continue this all the way around until you reach the first single crochet of your border. Once you've completed the border and reached your first single crochet, it's time to fasten off. Cut your working yarn, leaving a long tail. I recommend about 3 times the length of the border to be safe. We'll use this to sew later. Once you've cut your yarn, insert your hook into that first single crochet you did, yarn over and pull the cut yarn completely through. Then tighten the knot to secure it. You can also add a couple of more to make it extra secure. Now we'll create the belly, which is similar to the process for creating the shell, but with a few differences, such as the buttonhole and the legs along the border. So let's get started. Just like before, make a slip knot and place it on your hook. Create a chain equal to 4 inches. When your chain is the correct length, add 2 more chains for your turning stitch. To create the buttonhole, we'll chain 2 and then skip 2 chains in the middle of our row. To find where to skip, divide your total chain by 2 and subtract 2. So for my row, I have 16 chains, so I'll divide 16 by 2, which equals 8, minus 2, which equals 6. So I'll work 6 half double crochets, then chain 2, skip 2, and then work my last 6 half double crochets to the end of the row. Make sure your buttonhole is slightly smaller than your button for a secure fit. If it's too large, you can chain 1 and skip 1 instead. So to start the next row, chain 2 and turn your work. You'll work 1 half double crochet in each stitch across the row. Optionally, to create a raised texture like a real ladybug's belly, you can work into the back loop only of each stitch. So instead of inserting your hook under both loops, you would insert it from the top to catch only the back loop, and then you'll just complete your half double crochet as usual. Alright, so finish this row by adding 1 half double crochet in each stitch. For the next rows, you'll simply follow the same process we used to create the shell panel. If you need a quick reminder, you can scroll back to the part of the video where we crocheted the shell, or you can refer to the steps I've listed here for easy reference. So pause the video, complete these, and then we'll move on to the leg section. Okay, now you should have 2 identical panels, so we'll add the legs to the belly panel. To help with placement, place 3 stitch markers along each side of the belly panel. I've spaced mine out by eye and tried to make them roughly even. Flip your work and then grab your working yarn. Begin by working single crochet stitches along the side edge until you reach your first leg stitch marker. Remove the marker, and in that stitch, you'll add 1 single crochet and then chain 5. This chain 5 will be the length of your bottom leg. If you want the leg to be longer, you can chain more stitches. Next, chain 1 additional stitch for your turning chain. In the second chain from your hook, work your first single crochet. Then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 chains, giving you a total of 5 single crochets for the leg, and bringing you back down to the working row. That's your first leg complete. You'll repeat the same steps for the second leg. So in the next stitch of your working row, add a single crochet, and then continue adding single crochets in each stitch until you reach your next stitch marker. Remove the marker and then repeat the same process for the second leg. So add a single crochet into that stitch, chain 5 or your desired length, add another chain for your turning stitch, and then add 5 single crochets back down the chain. The third leg on this side will be longer to secure the ladybug to your bag handle. So repeat the same steps as the previous 2 legs, but instead of chaining 5, you'll chain 8. So work single crochet stitches along the edge until you reach the stitch marker. Remove it, work 1 single crochet into that stitch, chain 8, chain 1 for your turning stitch, and then work 8 single crochet stitches back down the chain. That completes the legs on one side of your belly panel. For the other side, place stitch markers in the same positions as the first side. Work single crochet stitches along the edge until you reach the first stitch marker. This will be your other long leg, and in this leg we'll add a buttonhole. Remove the marker, work 1 single crochet into that stitch, chain 8, chain 1 for the buttonhole space, and then chain 1 more for the turning stitch. So you should have a total of 10 chains. In the second chain from your hook, work your first single crochet, then chain 1, skip the next stitch, and continue working single crochets into the remaining 7 chains. For the final 2 legs on this side, repeat the process that I just showed you for the shorter legs on the previous side. Once all 3 legs are complete, to finish, cut your working yarn, insert your hook into that first stitch of the leg row, yarn over, and pull through. Then pull on that tail to secure the knot, and you can add a couple more knots to make it extra secure. Okay, we've just finished our belly panel. Now we're going to continue using our black yarn, and we're going to add the ladybug head to the shell panel. Grab your shell panel and some stitch markers. We need to mark where the ladybug's head will be positioned, and to make sure it's centered, I recommend placing a stitch marker 1 stitch in from each side edge of the shell panel. So these stitch markers will show us exactly where the head will begin and end. Next, we'll start crocheting. Take your black yarn and make a slip knot and then place it onto your hook. Remove your first stitch marker, insert your hook into that stitch. You'll take your working yarn into your other hand. Then you'll yarn over, pull through. You should now have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and pull through both loops on your hook to create your first single crochet. From here, continue adding 1 single crochet in each stitch until you reach the end of the row. Alright, you've reached the end of the row, so remove your last stitch marker and work 1 final single crochet into that very last stitch. To start the next row, chain 1 and turn your work. Now work 1 single crochet in each stitch across the entire row. This next row will be our first decrease row. We'll be working a decrease at the beginning and end of the row. So to start it, chain 1 and turn your work. To make the first decrease, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through. You should have 2 loops on your hook. With those loops still on your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, and pull through. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and that's your first decrease completed. Continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch until you have just 2 stitches remaining. In the last 2 stitches of your row, you'll add your last decrease. From this point, we'll alternate between a decrease row, like the one we just did, and a regular row where you single crochet in each stitch. Continue this pattern of decrease row, decrease row, regular row, etc. until your working row measures approximately 2 inches. Pause the video here and work those alternating rows, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so our current top row should now measure about 2 inches. For reference, our ladybug head is now 2 inches tall, and the base is about 3 inches. Now let's begin working on the antennas. Chain 1 and turn your work. In the very first stitch, make a slip stitch. In the next stitch, work 1 single crochet. Then chain 4 and add 1 more chain for your turning chain, so that's a total of 5 chains. Now starting in the second chain from your hook, work back down the chain, placing 1 single crochet in each of the 4 stitches. This brings you back down to your working row. Next, work 1 slip stitch into each of the next 3 stitches, or until you have just 2 stitches left on your row. In the second to last stitch, work 1 single crochet. Then chain 4 and add 1 more chain for your turning stitch. Again, this is 5 chains in total. Work 1 single crochet in each of the 4 chain stitches. Finally, make 1 slip stitch into the very last stitch of the row. To finish off, cut your working yarn, yarn over, and pull the yarn tail completely through the loop to create a knot. Pull the knot tight, and then for extra security, you can add some more knots. Okay, now we're going to create the applique details for the ladybug. We'll continue using our black yarn to create spots for the shell. Start with a magic ring, so take your yarn and wrap it around 2 fingers to form an X. Flip your hand and adjust the yarn so that the 2 threads are parallel. Insert your crochet hook under the first strand to hook the second one and then pull it underneath. Rotate your hook upwards and then chain 1 to secure the loop. Carefully slide the loop off your fingers and add 1 more chain. Next, add 8 half double crochets into the center of the ring. So yarn over, insert your hook into the center, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. This is your first half double crochet. Repeat this 7 more times for a total of 8 half double crochets. Once you have 8 half double crochets, firmly pull the tail to tighten the magic ring and close the center. Slip stitch into the first half double crochet you made in this round. Then to fasten off, cut your working yarn, leaving a long tail at least 4 inches for sewing later. Yarn over and pull all the way through. Pull the tail to tighten the knot. Repeat this to create 4 more spots. You'll have a total of 5 spots, but feel free to make more or fewer if you prefer. Put those aside, and now we'll create the center line on the shell. Make a slip knot and place it on your hook. Create a chain equal to the length of your shell, and then cut your working yarn, leaving a long tail to use for sewing. Yarn over and pull through to create the knot. Lastly, we'll create the spots for the ladybug head. Take your white yarn now and create a magic ring following the same steps we previously did for the black spots. Then you'll chain 1. You'll work 6 half double crochets into the center of the magic ring. Then when you finish those 6 half double crochets, you'll partially close the ring by gently pulling on the tail, just enough to create a half circle shape. To fasten off, cut your yarn, leaving a short tail about 3 to 4 inches, and then yarn over, pull through to create a knot. Repeat the steps to create a second spot. Put those aside, and then now we will add the small white spot directly to the ladybug head. So cut a piece of yarn about 3 inches long. Thread this yarn onto your tapestry needle. Starting from the back, insert your needle and pull the yarn through to the front, and then you're just going to sew a small straight line by inserting the tapestry needle back into the panel. Repeat this process about 3 times to make your line a bit thicker, and then bring your needle to the back, and you should have 2 yarn tails on the back of the panel, and then using these 2 tails, tie them together to create a secure knot. Okay, now it's time to sew all of the appliques, so we'll continue with the white spots. Thread the 2 tails of the white spot onto your tapestry needle, position the spot on the head panel where you want it to be placed, and then insert your needle through the edge of the spot and then through the head panel. So you're securing them together, and then remove one of the tails from the needles, and then using the remaining tail that's threaded, you should continue to sew all along the edge of the white spot. Once you've sewn all the way around, make sure to bring the needle to the back and then use those 2 tails to create a knot. Weave in your ends and then trim off any excess yarn. Repeat this process for the second spot. Next, we'll attach the black spots to the shell. Before sewing, I recommend arranging the spots onto the shell panel to get an idea of the placement you like. You can also use stitch markers to hold them in place if needed. Thread the tails of the black spot onto your tapestry needle, and then you'll just sew the spot to the shell panel using the same method we did for the white spots. Once it's secure, bring the tails to the back and then use them to tie a knot. Weave in your ends and then trim any excess yarn. Repeat this for all the remaining spots. Finally, we'll attach the center chain. Thread one of the long tails of the chain onto your tapestry needle. Place the chain down the center of the shell panel. Insert the thread through the chain and into the shell panel, and then just continue sewing the chain all the way to the end. When you reach the end, make sure both yarn tails are on the back of the shell panel and then use them to tie a secure knot, and then weave in your ends and trim any excess yarn. With all of our appliques added, we're now going to sew the buttons. To be honest, it was really hard for me to thread the needle and sew the buttons on camera because I had to hold it really close to my face to even be able to see it, so I don't do a good job of showing how to do this, but the process is just like how you would normally sew a button. If you've never sewn a button before, I'll link the tutorial that I used to learn in the description below. They do a much better job, but I'll do my best to show you how. So first, you'll need your sewing needle and thread. Thread the needle, and then tie a secure knot at the end. I recommend a couple of knots to make sure it holds well. I think I did about 5. Next, we'll position our first button just below the ladybug's head. It's really important to align this button with the buttonhole we created earlier on the belly panel, so you can place this panel over the button to make sure the alignment is correct. Once you're happy with the placement, it's time to sew. Now again, you'll just use the same process you would normally do to sew a button. My only recommendation is when you bring your needle up through the panel, make sure to come from underneath the chain stitch of the applique. This will help your thread blend in nicely and avoid standing out on the black chain. Then again, it's just the standard button sewing process. Pass your needle through one of the buttonholes, back down through the panel, up again, and repeat this several times to secure the button firmly. Once that first button is securely attached, just repeat the same process using the smaller button for the leg. With the leg button now securely attached, we're ready for the final step, which is joining the shell and belly panels together. First, locate the yarn tail on your shell panel, thread this tail through your tapestry needle, weave the needle to the top edge of the panel. Next, align the shell and belly panels together. I find it helpful to actually button the panel to help make sure everything stays aligned as we sew. You can also align the pieces by adding stitch markers along the edges. Now, using the threaded needle, sew the 2 panels together along the 3 sides. Once you've sewn all the way around, it's time to fasten off. Using that thread, tie a knot. You can add a couple more to make it extra secure, then weave in your ends and cut off any excess yarn. Then you're all done. There you have it, your very own Ladybug Bag Buddy is complete. I really hope you enjoyed making this project. If you decide to share your creation online, please tag me. I absolutely love to see the finished products from my tutorials and would love to repost your content. Remember, all of my designs and tutorials are available for free, so if you'd like to support me and help me continue to create more free patterns, please consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing this tutorial with your friends. This pattern is for personal use only, so that means you can go ahead and make it for yourself, for your friends. However, please refrain from selling the written pattern or from selling the final product. Thank you!